tuned in to the Community Cats podcast. Ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Community Cats podcast. I'm your host, Stacy LeBaron. I've been involved helping homeless cats for over 20 years with the Merrimack River Feline Rescue Society. The goal of this podcast is to expose you to amazing people who are improving the lives of cats. I hope these interviews will help you learn how you can turn your passion for cats into action. And today we're speaking with Ingrid Johnson. Ingrid is a certified cat behavior consultant through the International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants. Ingrid owns and operates Fundamentally Feline, providing consultations worldwide for clients experiencing behavior challenges with their cats. In addition to behavior consults, Ingrid also offers medicating consultations to help clients overcome or get ahead of medicating challenges. Prevention and training, the best medicine. She makes her own line of feline foraging toys, scratching posts, vertical space, and litter boxes. She lectures nationwide on cat behavior at veterinary conferences such as AAFP, VMX, ACVC, and the like. She is the hospital manager, tech, and groomer at Paws, Whiskers, and Claws, a feline-only veterinary hospital, and has been working exclusively with cats since 1999. In the fall of 2016, a paper she co-authored, Food Puzzles for Cats, Feeding for Physical and Emotional Well-Being, was published in the Journal of Feline Medicine and Surgery. And to complement it, she co-developed foodpuzzlesforcats.com. To date, it's the most popular and widely downloaded paper in the history of the journal. Ingrid's home, cats, and environmental enrichment expertise has been featured on Animal Planet's Cats 101 show, CNN, and featured in numerous publications, including the website WebMD. She's created a series of educational how-to videos of her own, viewable on Fundamentally Feline's website and YouTube channel. Ingrid regularly interviews and offers her expertise for various media outlets, and she is co-director of Paw Project Georgia, working towards ending the cruel practice of declawing cats. Cat Fancy magazine's 2008 home issue showcased her feline-friendly accommodations and aesthetically pleasing ways you can provide for your cat's innate basic needs while she still is having a home for the humans that they can enjoy. Ingrid is a huge advocate for enrichment and is determined to thwart the belief that one's home will look unsightly in efforts to provide it. Ingrid shares her home with husband Jake, 6 rescued cats, and a rescued Great Pyrenees dog. Follow Fundamentally Feline on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Fundamentally Feline. They are everywhere. Ingrid, I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much. That was a mouthful. You did a great job.
Well, as you go through there, I was thinking, this is lots. But then again, you've been around since 1999, so you should have lots on the list of accomplishments. So thank you so much for sharing all that information. And I'm actually really surprised. And I'll ask you my kickoff question. Everybody listening out there is going, okay, Stacy, where's that first question? The first question you always ask. But I'm going to digress a little bit here and just be like, wow, you were talking about feline behavior things back in 2008, food puzzles and all of these other items. What I'm going to say way back then, I never thought in the 90s and the early 2000s I would ever talk about food puzzles for cats. But it seems like you were like cutting edge and really out there on the forefront in creating enrichment for cats. And it's really, truly amazing. And does that have anything to do with your journey about becoming passionate for cats?
Well, the food puzzle thing actually was really cool because I had the opportunity. I was working for a feline exclusive veterinarian, and she saw, I guess, some value in my passion, and she decided to send me to the first ever all feline behavior conference in Tempe, Arizona, hosted by the AAFP. And at that conference, I went to a lecture on enrichment. It was like a 4-hour workshop with Dr. Karen Overall, Steve Dale. There was a variety of different people participating, and I learned about poking holes in a water bottle and putting food in it. And I was like, oh, I can go really far with that. And I came home and I made 1, 2, and 3-hole water bottles. I had bins behind the front desk and asked for a $1 donation for our 60 clinic cats that were up for adoption. And everybody got water bottles to try as food puzzle toys, different difficulty levels. And it just blew up from there. So that was the early years. That was early 2000s that I started making holes in water bottles.
But where did you learn about cats' desires to have this behavior and creating it in a home environment. I work in the community cat world. So most of my thoughts, ideas, experiences, my programmatic conceptions are all about cats outdoors, how to reduce cat overpopulation, how to either spay neuter to reduce the population, or how to help cats that can have an indoor life but yet have lived outside. So from your perspective, where did we all develop this idea that we kind of have to recreate outdoors inside? And is that really successful for cats transitioning from the outside in?
I truly do think it is successful, and I think it's imperative. I mean, we have to try, right? And honestly, it was these conferences that I was sent to early on. They were veterinary conferences, but I always gravitated towards all the behavior talks. And two of the things that really got pounded into my head was the constant sentence, and I still say it to this day: boredom, frustration, and environmental stress are what lead to behavior problems. And I constantly still repeat that because, unfortunately, all this many years later, we're still fighting that same battle of boredom, frustration, and environmental stress. And so then the other mantra that really hit home was the eye stalk, chase, pounce, kill sequence is one of the greatest completions. One of the greatest thrills for a cat is to complete that sequence. So when you put those two things together, there's a screaming red flag that says your indoor cat still needs to hunt. And, you know, it's as close as letting a mouse loose in the house as we're ever going to get. Now, I have had clients who, well, buy crickets and let them go and let the cats have a field day, essentially a canned hunt in the home. But I'm a vegan, so I'm not going to do that. I do feed my obligate carnivores, and I like to feed them via puzzles because I want them to work, think, and problem solve. And we have to remember, too, that there's a little bit of an element of positive frustration. When you're presented with a puzzle and a conundrum and you figure it out, you're rewarded very freely with food. And so that's part of how food puzzles became so passionate for me, as I realized that these cats had a really good time doing this. And I decided that instead of just putting treats in here and making it an enrichment game, why not just make this how they eat? And actually what ended up happening was our home caught fire, and we had to downsize to a much smaller space. And I woke up one morning to my already overweight cat just laying at the food dish, gorging. And I was like, that's it. I got up that morning and I took up all the bowls because they'd already been foraging for over a year for treats. So I knew they were all capable. And I just put all their food in the puzzles. And that was that. And we started a weight loss program, and I've never gone back. I haven't had bowls of dry food in this house in 18 years.
I think there are a lot of lessons learned that we can all take home as individuals on this too. One who is struggling with weight on a frequent basis. I try to keep as little food in the house as possible because it makes sense if we all have food available. I mean, some would say, I've heard the phrase, the dry cat food can be sort of like having a bag of chips hanging around the house and that kind of thing. And if it's sitting out there on the counter and it's available, you're going to eat it. But if you make it a little bit of work to get to the food and make the food as quality food as possible, then you're going to be obviously healthier and happier and stronger and mentally healthier too. And I don't think we all think about that, but I would assume that the mental well-being of cats improves with all of this, with the foraging for food in the house, as well as their coat, their body composition. I would assume there's multiple layers of improvement there.
Absolutely. It's so cool to watch them figure something out, learn if they're right or left pawed based on how they're dexterous with using the toys. It's really fun to watch. And I always explain to people, though, that cats, and there's been some studies done on this now, that cats will not contra freeload. So they will not work for food that's readily available. And so to your point of keeping food in the house, I always give the example for humans that if you went to a restaurant and you were hungry and you were presented with lobster and you had two plates and one was lobster in the shell and one was shelled for you with a little ramekin of butter right there, which one are you going to take the first bite of? Cats are not going to work for food that you've been putting in a bowl for the last 5 years. So the way to get cats to forage is to motivate them by putting something novel in the toy to make it worth their time. They're one of the only species studied. I mean, pick it. Humans, chimps, dogs, elephants, they'll all work for food instinctually, and cats are like, what are you doing? I think it's hilarious, really. I mean, they're just like, why? So we've got to increase the novelty to drive interest in the behavior.
Right. Yeah. And from the community cat side of things, one of my soapboxes is really trying to encourage folks that are feeding community cats to not leave food available all the time, or to not walk away from the food that you've left. So you really should put food out for about 30 minutes, and then whatever hasn't been consumed or eaten, you need to clean up and take away. And I would think that's also, it's not working for the food, but yet it is training those cats. It's getting them in a position where they realize that food's not available all the time. And again, I think it would make the community cats healthier overall too.
Well, cats eat 9 to 16 small, evenly sized meals a day. So the way I control how much they eat is by increasing the challenge of the puzzles. So my cats have availability to eat when and where they want. If they want to eat at 3 a.m, they can eat at 3 a.m. They just have to work for it. They get wet food, multiple meals a day of wet food, because they have to eat very frequently. But we make them work very hard for the dry and the carbohydrates and allow them that free access, because when you limit control, you increase stress. So giving them the ability to control access to food when and where they want it decreases stress. And so that's one of the ways that I help people understand their feeding protocol. Twice a day meals is making their cats really stressed out, because they have no control over when the next meal is coming. No opposable thumb, can't open that can on their own. So it gives them some degree of control, but slows them down so that they don't gorge and overeat.
Okay, interesting. Just trying to figure out how that would then translate into organized meals, or using clicker training, trying to get cats in to come for meals. We have cats that have been relocated out to barns that we try to get them in at night, and using either clicker training or using food as the sort of the bribe to get them back in. And then you were talking about 9 to 16 meals a day. I mean, my cats sleep a lot. That seems like that's a lot of wake time too. Just seems like I'm tired just looking at that, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot. But of course, it does vary based on age, activity level, how much energy output they have. But their stomach's about the size of a ping pong ball. So these meals are quite small.
Oh, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. And so I wanted to just touch upon a couple of other topics that you were talking about, that over the years, you've gotten to really call yourself an expert in that arena. So many people, if you have a cat, any kind of cat, at some point in time, you're going to be medicating that cat. And that's certainly not the thing that I'm very excited about doing at all. Can you share your thoughts with regards to how we can medicate our cats?
Yes, I could probably fill up the rest of our time, so you're going to have to reel me in. Feel free to interrupt me. But I would say first and foremost, whenever we have a new cat or kittens in our lives, we need to teach them that opening their mouths is amazing and delicious. I have new kittens and they got 24 hours free. And then they started trading the next day. And instantly I open their mouth and syringe of AD. Open their mouth, lick a churu. Open their mouth, give them a treat. Any touching and movement around the mouth and jaw is going to get them a reward, so that I can open that mouth for the rest of my life and give them a pill. With the older cats, I use clicker training to shape that. And I have a video, free help available on my YouTube channel. Anybody who wants to view it, there's actually 3 videos there on how to clicker train your cat to allow the head to be manipulated and the jaw to be open so you can properly pill them. But then also for some easy things, some hands-off things would be using things like pill pockets or Royal Canin Pill Assist, and putting a little piece of kibble on the inside and giving your new cat or kitten a treat every day that doesn't actually have a pill in it. It just has a little piece of dry food on the inside of a semi-soft treat. So we learn to trust these things. We learn that every night at 6 o'clock, we get this amazing treat. We only get one, so we're very stingy. And that stays exciting, so that the day that there's an antibiotic in there or a thyroid tablet in there, no big deal. We trust these. The inside we're used to it being firm. And then the other thing that is probably the single most important thing to do is to teach your cats to eat empty gel caps now, before you need to medicate them. And I have many videos on this on my YouTube channel and website as well, where I place an empty gelatin capsule, or a stuffed one in most cases, with meds on a textured surface. The key is carpet, something with some fluffy pile, and you put a blob of very delicious food on said capsule, almost like putting ketchup on a hot dog. And that blob of food gets stuck on the barbs of the cat's tongue. And they tend to take the whole blob because it's smooth. There's no cut edges, no discernible pill to feel, no yucky taste. It's all disguised in the capsule. The whole blob just glides down easily. And if you can teach your cats to eat capsules willingly, fantastic. You can now medicate your cat. You can give them 18 pills a day if you needed to, because they're going to gobble them all up. But don't get comfortable with that. Ride the wave as long as it works. But there always comes a day where they're nauseous, they're vomiting, they have a cold, they can't smell. They're not going to eat it. So you still have to work on clicker training those steps to open that cat's mouth for the day they stop eating their capsules and they don't feel good.
Are you passionate about making spay-neuter services more accessible? Join us for the 2024 United Spay Alliance online conference on October 12th and 13th, hosted by the Community Cats Podcast and the United Spay Alliance. This 2-day virtual event brings together animal welfare experts offering presentations on starting low-cost spay-neuter programs, fundraising, community outreach, and more. Learn what's working from professionals and volunteers and get inspired with new strategies to help control the cat population. Register today at communitycatspodcast.com/spayallday and be part of the change.
In a recent study, 97% of respondents said that pets are family. Communities can play a vital role in helping to keep families together. Whether it's reuniting lost pets with their owners, donating pet supplies or funds for pet owners in need, or offering short or long-term fostering, people can help keep pets and their people together. We just have to show them how. Did you know there are resources you can use to help bring attention to the programs you offer to help them do just that? From public service announcements, short videos, printable posters, online and social graphics, and much more. Find your resources at www.petsandpeopletogether.org/campaign-resources. #be a helper.
Wouldn't it be fantastic if your whole TNR team was on the same page? Imagine your staff and volunteers mastering trapping best practices, prepping cats properly for clinic arrival, and making everyone's job easier. Would you like to give them a toolbox of tips and tricks to refer to whenever trapping gets tough? Our monthly virtual TNR workshops are perfect for group training, covering everything from TNR philosophy to planning, equipment use, public relations, because we are all going to run into those stubborn neighbors, and cat care tips, plus more. With Q&A sessions, handouts, and customized content for your program, your team will be ready to successfully reduce the number of free-roaming cats in your community. Ready to turn your trappers into a team? Great! Email Stacy at communitycatspodcast.com or call 978-239-2090 for details.
The Academy is back. After a 3-year hiatus, the biggest in-person gathering of boots on the ground cat rescuers from all over the country has returned for another unforgettable weekend of community building, skill development, and fostering brand connections to make your life as a rescuer the best and most fulfilling it can be. They say it's all about the cats, but the Academy understands that nothing can be achieved without people like you behind the scenes. That's why we know the best way to advance the cause is to support you in becoming the best version of yourself. This 2-day conference exclusively serves cat rescuers like you through advanced and masterclass content from dozens of your rescue peers and industry leaders. Activity spaces, specialized meetups, structured breakout sessions, interactive experiences, after-hour activities, and more to help build your life-saving network. FaceTime and opportunities to build relationships with event sponsors and industry professionals. And of course, our legendary paper-free swag bags loaded with samples and full-size products to try. This year's conference is a twofer. Your registration includes access to the Cat Fanciers Association International Cat Show and Expo, where you'll find entertainment, artists, vendors, public cat welfare sessions, and more. Join us at the IX Center in Cleveland, Ohio, October 12th and 13th, and use the code CommunityCats15 at registration for 15% off. Learn more about the conference, speakers, activities, and features at theacademy.org. So clicker training, you mention it. Some of our listeners may not even know what clicker training is. Can you share a little bit of background on that?
Clicker training is a form of positive reinforcement training, and the clicker is a marker. It marks good behavior. It tells the cat, you just did what I was hoping that you would do, and your reward is coming. In most cases, that reward is food. But it can also be like a little bat of a quick feather toy, teaser, something like that. It can be praise. It can be a cheek brush with a soft bristled baby brush, whatever motivates that individual. But generally, we use food. And some people find it cumbersome to hold a clicker and do all this training. So you can click with your tongue, if you can do that motion. And you could also use a verbal marker like yes or good. You just have to be consistent and use the exact same thing every single time. And for some people that have, for example, a deaf cat, we'll use a flash of light. So we just have to pick a marker that works for us as humans, because we're learning a new skill when we're clicker training. And then we have to pick something that works for our cat. Like if you have a very shy, skittish cat, a true and proper dog clicker might scare the bejesus out of them. So a little click of a clicky pen might be enough. Or there are some clickers out there that have a softer click. That's the basis of clicker training, is you ask them to do a behavior, you click when they do the right thing, and then you immediately follow with a food reward. And I describe this in my videos with text overlay as I'm doing it so people can learn.
This all sounds like a lot of work. There are a lot of people out there that believe, oh, I just want to have a cat because I don't have to really do anything. I don't have to walk it like a dog. I don't have to do any of those things. But really, cats do need more support than just a scooped litter box and food.
They absolutely do. This is why I have a job. This is why I'm a cat behaviorist, because so many people think that they're just low maintenance pets. But at the same time, I just want to address that all the things I just mentioned, we're not training a German Shepherd to heel on the driveway here. We're talking about a cat that does not have a drive or a need to please you. You've got about 3 or 5 minutes of training. Then they're like, all right, I'm going to go sit in the windowsill, watch the birds. Thanks. Sometimes you get all excited to train and they literally just walk away. And you're like, all right, I'll put all the stuff back. We're not doing that right now. So these sessions, teaching a cat to eat a capsule, it could take you 30 seconds a day. It's not time consuming. But yes, I truly believe that we should train all of our cats now as they come into our homes, just as we should be training our dogs, which also, sadly, enough people are not doing. I give pretty much all the animals 24 hours of free ride when they first become new to me, and then training starts immediately the next day, because I want everyone here to learn some basics. And even if you don't have your cats jumping through hoops of fire at your next dinner party, teaching them some basic foundation behaviors creates a language with which you can communicate with your cat. It is a game changer to have them understand a couple of basic skills, and can even help in instances where you have a pet sitter come into the house, or you have somebody that was new to the home and the cat is shy and timid. Clicker training can help build that confidence to allow them to come out and be approached and handled by these other people.
But just to add, we're in the office. Some of us are back in the office. Not all of us, but some of us are back in the office. And so are there things that we can do to enrich the home environment that adds to a cat's excitement when we might be at work?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And more than just foraging toys, but I am a firm believer that my cats have a life here without me. And I want that. I want them to love me, but I want them to have things to do that doesn't necessarily always involve me. And that can be everything from having lots of vertical space and things to climb, and bird feeders outside that provide kitty cat TV, to having food puzzles for them to hunt and play and eat at will. Scent enrichment, big fan of scent enrichment, and remembering that there's more than just catnip out there. We've got silvervine, Tartarian honeysuckle, dried valerian root. There's other smells that cats respond to in a euphoric way, so we have to explore that. And I love the good old standbys too. There's literally a big box in my dining space right now filled with crinkle paper from shipments from Amazon. And that is entertainment for hours. And you stuff it in a closet for a few days and bring it back out again. It's like a brand new toy. So we don't have to spend a lot of money either. Sometimes we just need some tissue paper on the floor, or a cardboard box, or a brown paper bag. And that can make things great. But I also am a big fan, if you have the means, if you have the space for it, supervised outdoor time, like screen porches, catios, leash and harness walks, cat strollers. We do all of these things. And I really enjoy having plants out there for them as well. So they're having as much of the natural environment as is possible in a safe way. They have cat grass that they can eat and puke up, hopefully out on the catio, but lo and behold, it's always on the rug. I have a theory behind that. And, they basically feel like they're in a little jungle out there, and they have the ability to come and go at will through a cat door. So I think things like that really are a game changer for when we're away from the home.
I'm going to ask you a question about your involvement with being a technician and working at a veterinary clinic, and then also your role as a feline behaviorist. I used to think of feline behaviorists kind of like over here on the left, and then like the veterinary space way over on the right. Are those two categories or components, are they kind of blending together to work in unison to help cats, or do you feel like they're still pretty isolated from one another?
I think they have to work together. And I think that's what sets me apart and makes me more successful than some, because I tackle all of these issues from a medical and behavioral standpoint simultaneously. So many behavior problems are simply a result of an underlying medical condition in cats. And it's not getting caught, it's not getting addressed. And a lot of vets honestly don't realize. So in our world, in our practice, I see a lot of second, third, seventh opinions at our practice. We have people that come from other states to come see us because they've had a consult with me, and I'm convinced that their cat has blank, blank, and blank wrong. And that's what's contributing to the underlying issue. And then oftentimes, too, if it is a straight up behavioral problem like redirected aggression, which is the number one reason people reach out for me, oftentimes those problems are not addressed without medication, because the cats need to come down and stay under a threshold so that we can work with them and teach them to be friends again. And so oftentimes we can't fix that without meds because the issue is so severe. So I think when it's not working in unison, neither party is as successful. I think we have to work together, medicine and behavior simultaneously. And that is the key to Fundamentally Feline being successful and helping all my patients.
So if you were out there and you were becoming a feline behaviorist, number one, where would you direct somebody who wanted to sort of enter into that side of the profession? And then number two, what would you recommend for them getting connected with veterinary practices?
I actually think it's really helpful for someone who's interested in behavior to work as a vet assistant or a tech for a while, because they need to be able to handle and deal with more cats. And you're going to see a lot of body language. You're going to see a lot of behavior to observe in the hospital setting. You can do that in the shelter setting too, though, but you may not get as much medical education, which you might also find beneficial towards consulting. And as far as where to go or what to do, honestly, I had so many different avenues that assisted me. It's hard for me to say which one was key, but I will just share that I was well into the double digits of cats in my own home. And so that was a very educational experience. And you have to learn how to fix your own problems when you decide you're going to save the world all at once and have a big household of cats. So that was helpful. I worked at a vet clinic that had 55 to 60 clinic cats at any given time that were up for adoption. So I was absolutely saturated in cats no matter where I went, home or work. Then, of course, went to all those conferences, which, I was going to a conference every year, every other year, and getting to learn from the best, getting to learn from all the top names. So that was huge. And if that's something that people can get their foot in the door to go to and now we've got webinars, we've got entirely focused behavior-only conferences, which didn't exist in 1999. So there's that. And then, of course, the textbooks, but not just reading like the layman's books that are great, but actually reading the textbooks that veterinarians would read in curriculum. That's where I would direct people to go.
Ingrid, if folks are interested in finding out more about the work that you're doing or have any follow-up questions, how would they do that?
Well, I'm found at fundamentallyfeline.com. You can also find me on YouTube, Fundamentally Feline on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and I also co-host foodpuzzlesforcats.com, and we have a Facebook and Instagram page as well. And I think that's everything. You can find me on pawswhiskersandclaws.com as well, the clinic where I manage. But I think that's pretty much me.
Great. And is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners today?
I would just say, don't underestimate your cats. I think we need to elevate our expectation of our cats. And I think that everybody who thinks that they can't pill their cat or they can't train their cat, spend a little time on my YouTube channel. Watch the cats riding the skateboards. You can do this. You can teach your cat to sit and high five and take a pill.
Excellent. Ingrid, I want to thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest on my show, and I hope we'll have you on again in the future.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
That's it for this week. Please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. We love to hear what you think, and a 5-star review really helps others find the show. You can also join the conversation with listeners, cat caretakers, and me on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to hit follow or subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss a single show. Thanks for listening, and thank you for everything that you do to help create a safe and healthy world for cats.